The founding of America, it was in many respects a Jewish project. Alexander Hamilton, a Jew.
Simca's Sessions, out-of-the-box insights into history, religion, and politics.
I want to talk to you about something that I don't think has been covered at all in the media or in social media with respect to the war between Israel and these various Islamic jihadist terrorist groups, Hamas, ISIS, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah. Nobody addresses what I think may be the most important aspect of this conflict. And what is that? That it's not a war against Israel. It's ultimately a war against democracy. And Israel is domino number one that they want to destroy. And the bad guys then want to go after America. Why? Because America is the greatest upholder, the most powerful upholder of democracy. And the bad guys understand something that the rest of us may not, and that is that the goal is not simply to isolate Israel, drive a wedge between Israel and the Western democratic world, specifically America and Europe. No, that's not the goal. The goal is not only to ghettoize Israel in the international arena and to ghettoize Jews in America, drive a wedge between them and the rest of American society, progressive society. No, the goal ultimately is to pull the ideological rug from under America itself, to distance America from its own founding ideology. What is that founding ideology? Here's a term you may not have heard: Christian Hebraism. Look it up. At the founding of America, it was in many respects a Jewish project. And that's what the bad guys are after. I'm going to talk about this because it's a little bit complicated in three aspects: the exploration of America, the ideology of America, and blood, the actual DNA of some of its founding fathers. And if you like what I have to say, subscribe and like so that you can get weekly updates on various issues that kind of obsess me and I research. So let's go to the exploration of America. How is America a Jewish project? Well, why was it founded? Columbus. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. We now know, 2024, through DNA studies, that Columbus was a Jew, a secret Jew. Why would a Jew keep his identity secret? Because in Portugal and Spain of 1492, there was an Inquisition. The Catholic Church was going after the Jews. So many of these Jews led crypto-Jewish or Marrano existences. By daylight, Christians; by nighttime at home, Jews. And what were they doing? When they were found as being Jewish, they were burned at the stake. So Columbus, along with other crypto-Jews, along with other Marranos, said, let's go look for a place where Jews can be free. It was an early form of Zionism, the return to a land where Jews can defend themselves. I mean, they weren't looking for a passage to India. That was the cover story. Who was on the boat? They didn't take a single priest. These are supposedly Catholics. And why did they go? Who would get on that boat? Only people who were persecuted. It was dangerous. They knew most of them would die en route looking for America. And when they got to America, who got off? When they saw indigenous people, who got off first? It was Luis de Torres, a Jew. And what language did he speak? Hebrew. Why? Because they believed, according to Jewish lore, that across a body of water called the Sambation, Jews were not persecuted as they were in Spain and Portugal. Rather, Jews had a country, had a government, had an army, and they could protect themselves. They could be free. That's what they were looking for. And in some ways, they succeeded. This Marano project, this crypto-Jewish, secret Jewish project to find a land where Jews and other people could be free, succeeded. They found America. At its exploration, America came out of a Hebraic project, desire to go back to what once was, in the time of the Bible, a Hebrew republic. Ideologically, too, America was a Hebrew republic project. I mean, the whole idea of the separation of church and state, where did that come from? Well, that's also a Marano project. Persecuted by the church, some of these persecuted people said, wait a minute, maybe religion and state should be two different things. That idea of secularism, that the world we live in now, had to be invented. And who invented it? People like Spinoza, a Jew, child of secret Jews in Holland, Montaigne, a Jew, child of secret Jews. Now, overtly, Montaigne was a Christian. Both his parents were Jewish. That's where the separation of church and state came from. And other people, philosophers, created the idea of democracy, separation of church and state, individual rights, people like John Locke. Read John Locke. He wrote some of the constitutions of the new American Republic. I mean, he was quoting the Old Testament, not the New Testament. Why? Because he was searching for a biblical model for democracy, and he found it, like other philosophers, like Hobbes, he found it in the Bible, in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Republic, the God-given Hebrew Republic. That's what they were using as a model, ideologically, but also spiritually. The Pilgrim Fathers, the people who went on a Mayflower and founded a town that was not a colony of England, but rather separated itself from England. They saw themselves in biblical terms as the new Israel. They wanted a Hebrew republic, the Puritans. Read their journals. William Bradford, the first governor of Plymouth, started his journal in Hebrew because they saw England as Egypt. They saw it all as a divine replay of the biblical Exodus. They saw themselves as Israelites. They saw America as the new Israel, as the promised land. They saw the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, as the Red Sea, and they saw it all as divine providence, divine intervention to create a Hebrew republic in America. Now, they didn't see themselves as replacements, meaning they didn't see themselves as replacing the Jewish people because somehow the Jewish people screwed up. Rather, they saw the biblical torch being passed from the ancient Israelites, from the ancient Hebrews, from the Jews to them. Many of the original members of Congress wanted Hebrew to be the official language of the United States. They hated England. They saw it as Egypt and ancient Egypt, biblical Egypt, land of the pharaohs. They didn't want to speak English. They hated all things from the oppressor English. They wanted to speak Hebrew. Some of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence were Hebrew speakers, fluent Hebrew speakers. And some of the early founding fathers called or way before modern Zionism, called for the return of the Jewish people to ancient Judea to create an Israel. John Adams, second president of the United States, and his son, John Quincy Adams, they literally called for the return of the Jewish people to Judea, to Israel, to what the anti-Israel people now call Palestine, but that's what they were calling for. I mean, ideologically, at its founding, America was speaking Hebrew, saw itself as a Hebrew republic, used Old Testament metaphors and models, and wanted to create a place where all religions can live side by side without one religion being dominant and destroying the adherents, the believers of another religion. And this may shock you. When it comes to the blood running through some of the founders' veins, that was Jewish blood too. What? Yep, Hamilton, for example. I know you've seen the Broadway play. Hamilton was born in the Caribbean of a mother whose name was Levine. She was married to a guy named Levine. He went to Jewish school. That's not argued. The only reason you could enroll in a Jewish school is if you were a Jew. Hamilton always hung out with Jews. Here's the author of the Federalist Papers. Here's one of the founders of the United States who advocated that America should always stand on the side of the oppressed, who partnered with Jews against anti-Semites. Alexander Hamilton, a Jew. And there's another Jew who was very famous in American history, or at least had Jewish blood, who stood for the rights of blacks, who led a war, the Civil War. You know, he had that very Jewish name, Abraham. He had a sister named Sarah. His last name was Lincoln. The family hailed from the second biggest town after London in the UK that had a Jewish population. And after the Jews were expelled, they went underground. They became English Marranos. That's where Lincoln came from. He never, look at all his addresses. He never quotes the New Testament. He only talks about God in the singular. And he went up to Rabbi Weiss at an official function and he said, him, not me, I am flesh of your flesh and bone of your bone. This identification by secret Jews, and Christians, Christian Hebraism, with the Hebrew Republic of the Bible is what spiritually lies at the heart of America, of its foundation. What we call today Zionism. I mean, there's 15 cities in the United States that are called Zion. There's 26 cities in the United States that are called Salem, the ancient name of Jerusalem. America, at its spiritual founding, is in its fabric a Hebraist, Hebrew Zionist project. That's why America fits with Israel. And that's why the bad guys went to split America from Israel, split the Jews from America, and tear the underlying ideology. Listen to their language. They call Israel the little Satan and America the big Satan. When they stomp on Israeli flags and burn Israeli flags, they're also stomping on American flags and burning American flags. These are not political terms, Satan, little Satan, big Satan. These are theological, ideological terms. They see Israel as a Satan, but a little one. The big one, not because it has the bigger army, the bigger Satan, the one that is holding up the whole ideology of the Western world. It's the big Satan. It's America. In their crosshairs is not just Israel. It's Israel first, but America next. And unless the West and America wake up to this, they're going to continue to advance the ideological war. They are going to continue to weaken not just Israel, but America itself.